Second only to his brother The Undertaker when it comes to the length of tenure he's had in World Wrestling Entertainment, Glenn Jacobs has had a storied career at the top to say the least. He was billed as Mike Unabomb in his first WWF match, but soon transitioned into a role as Isaac Yankem DDS, Jerry Lawler's private dentist. Not a great start. Things didn't get much better with a short run as Fake Diesel, but before the year had ended, Jacobs had returned as the demonic Kane, and the big man's career was made. If the character had stagnated in the heady times of the Attitude Era, then it could be argued that Kane would be long gone, but much like his storyline bro, Kane has been able to take a gimmick that could have been one-dimensional and make it so much more. Let's rate his efforts. I'm Ben from What Culture, and here are the many faces of Kane, ranked from worst to best. Number 12. Embrace the Hate Kane. For years and years, fans clamoured for Kane to put the mask back on and embrace the demonic persona that made him famous in the first place. When vignettes began airing in November 2011, many were thrilled that the veteran would seemingly be heading in a more focused direction after years of being veteran guy in upper middle of the card. When Kane put the mask back on, he tried to goad John Cena into embracing the hate by attacking Zack Ryder. Embrace the Hate heel Kane was a true groaner. Truly the only positives that came out of Embrace the Hate Kane were Zack Ryder in a wheelchair and Team Hell No. Number 11. Forced Marriage Kane. Kane moved back down the card following his loss to The Undertaker at WrestleMania 20, but this didn't mean an improvement in his stories, as the Big Red Monster spent the rest of 2004 and a lot of 2005 embroiled in a program with Lita and Matt Hardy. The story was notorious for how distasteful it was at almost every turn, as Lita spurned Kane's advances only for the Demon to kidnap and impregnate her. Oh good. Things got worse as Kane defeated Matt Hardy at SummerSlam, which meant that Lita was contractually obligated to marry Kane. Kane then turned face via Snitsky, causing Lita to miscarry. Awful. Number 10. ECW Champion Kane. By 2007, Kane had reached peak mediocrity. Whether positioned as a babyface or a heel, the then 10-year veteran was a credible performer with a decent amount of name value to slot into whatever spot was available on the card. Kane made the move to the revamped ECW towards the end of the year and predictably found himself in a feud with Big Daddy V and Mark Henry. Why not? Prior to WrestleMania 24, Kane won a Battle Royal to become the #1 contender to Chavo Guerrero's ECW Championship and subsequently defeated Chavito in 11 seconds. Thus, Kane went on a fairly bland run as champion where he had a grand total of 0 memorable defenses. Number 9. May the 19th Kane. After Kane and Big Show lost the World Tag Team Championships to the Spirit Squad, Kane snapped once again. He began attacking anyone who mentioned the date May the 19th, although it is fair to say that this date was brought up more than usual during this period in spring 2006. On the fateful date, Kane took on Rey Mysterio as John Bradshaw Layfield's hand-picked partner, although he left both Rey and JBL lying in a pile after his own voice could be heard. The source of all this anguish? Well, Kane claimed that this was the day in which his mother and adopted family were killed in a fire. In reality, it was the day that See No Evil was released. Number 8. Demon Kane. If this was a list of Kane's personas by how depressing they were, it may well be the case that Demon Kane would sit in first place. Not in an entirely negative way, but by virtue of the fact that recent Kane isn't and shouldn't be relevant. He can come out now and then to deliver a chokeslam and pop a live crowd, but he needs to be far away from any stories of importance. Kane seems to know his role in the modern age, and he's also as comfortable in his character as anyone. There's nothing wrong with him wearing a mask and shooting fire out of the ring from time to time, but just stay away from those storylines, yeah? Number 7. Naive Kane. Once his initial story with Undertaker began to wind down, Kane headed in some rather peculiar directions. The corporation had him committed to an insane asylum, but Kane avoided going by joining the dastardly faction. It was the beginning of a year or so of stories that were defined by Kane's needing to be loved. He formed a strange team with X-Pac and even began to speak through an electro-larynx before transitioning into completely unaided speech. This being the Attitude Era, things obviously didn't end well, and X-Pac eventually turned on Kane by stealing his girlfriend Tori, which is rude. Number 6. World Champion Kane. In 2010, Kane turned heel for the 4,568th time in his career after weeks of claiming someone left his brother The Undertaker in a vegetative state. Kane was, of course, the perpetrator, and it led to him finally climbing to the top of the mountain once again. After winning the SmackDown Money in the Bank ladder match, the Big Red Machine cashed in on the same night to become World Heavyweight Champion for the first time in his career, before defeating The Undertaker 3 times in a row, which is really quite good going. Just years after being buried in concrete, Paul Bearer would get involved, however, and Kane transitioned away from the intimidating monster he had become. Number 5. Corporate Kane. Corporate Kane was first a thing at the end of October 2013 when he removed his mask and pledged allegiance to Stephanie McMahon. This saw him become something of a lackey for the Authority, eliminating CM Punk from the 2014 Royal Rumble, which was Punk's last act in WWE, and eventually last way too long in the 2015 edition. Kane was fantastic in the corporate role, his dry sense of humour and excellent timing working well in what was quite clearly a less intense role for the former monster. Number 4. Team Hell No Kane. Kane's 2012 Summer Championship challenge meant that he crossed paths with Daniel Bryan, and AJ Lee's ascension to the position of general manager on Raw meant bad times ahead for both. AJ Lee forced Kane and Bryan to go to anger management classes, and whilst that may have sounded ridiculous initially, it proved to be a creative masterstroke as the two men shined. The duo were quickly transitioned into tag team competition and dubbed Team Hell No, picking up the tag team gold in next to no time. Over the course of the next year or so, Kane and Bryan went from bickering foes to the closest of friends, and whilst their friendship couldn't survive Bryan's beef with the Authority, it certainly did refresh Kane somewhat in the eyes of the audience. Number 3. Hardcore Kane. In 2001, Kane's career was at something approaching a crossroads. It started off hot before cooling off somewhat with a number of humanizing feuds. He was flirting dangerously with becoming obsolete. Instead, 2001 became the year in which Kane truly proved his value to the World Wrestling Federation. He began the year by eliminating a then record 11 men from the Royal Rumble, finishing as runner-up to none other than Stone Cold Steve Austin, and then followed that up by defeating Raven and Big Show at WrestleMania 17 to win the Hardcore Championship. This was the year in which Kane truly became a fixture in WWE, a more than credible competitor who could fill any spot at any time, be it a monstrous heel or loyal babyface. Number 2. Emotionally unstable Kane. In 2003, after being embroiled in a truly terrible feud with Triple H, Kane was forced to unmask on an episode of Raw that summer. This was a huge deal at the time, and whilst the prevailing feeling was that more could have been done with it, what we got was still pretty damned exciting. Kane went on an utter rampage, becoming the unstable monster he was initially for the first time in years. He set poor old JR on fire, electrocuted Shane McMahon's testicles, attacked Linda McMahon, and helped Vince bury The Undertaker. Which is quite a lot. It's a busy schedule, that. Number 1. Debut Kane. Of course it is. After being teased for months, Kane finally arrived in October 1997, interfering in the first ever Hell in a Cell match by ripping the cell door off. In this modern time of kicking out of finishers and Cena strength, that may not seem like a big deal, but 19 years ago, it was terrifying. Which is exactly what Kane was initially. He was terrifying, exciting, fresh, and terrifying again, unlike anything we'd seen before, and presented entirely differently. Not even The Undertaker wanted anything to do with him, and if the dead man wants to avoid you, then you must be bad news. The thrill ultimately wouldn't last, but when it comes to Kane, nothing can truly top his debut.
The killer in you is the power in me. Pleased to meet you, so good to see. The killer in you will keep me alive. Back to back, self-sacrifice.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe below, and if you're looking for more content like this, then try a few things that are floating about around my ears. It might be fun. I can't promise it though, but it might be.